like to think of ourselves as the vintage muscle car of burgers. After all, both are handcrafted, made with an appreciation for every detail. One with the finest materials, the other with the freshest ingredients. And seeing either one brings a smile to your face. Muscle cars and double doubles are all American classics, and both are gone in seconds.
At your neighborhood Rayleigh's in Bel Air, discover fresh finds and save big on all the delicious ingredients that summer brings. Like this week's single pack of previously frozen, mouth-watering pork loin baby back ribs for just $2.97 a pound. And get sweet, juicy red cherries on sale for only $2.97 a pound too. Enjoy these awesome deals in-store or online with your neighborhood Rayleigh's in Bel Air.
We try to stay cool in a heat wave. Our supply is pushed to the limit. But we can all stay up and running with Flex Alerts. From farmers to football fans to pharmacists, we can all sign up for Flex Alert reminders. They notify us when to use less energy if our power supply is stretched. And energy used before 4 p.m. is clean solar energy that we can all use guilt-free. Let's flex our power to save our power. Visit saveourpower.org to learn more.
Now the app you use to listen to all your favorite radio stations and podcasts, also your free music. Yep, the free iHeart app now lets you create playlists totally free. Hear a song on the radio that you love? Just grab it and start a brand new playlist of oh wow songs. You're one tap away from being able to save all the songs from your favorite stations. So go ahead, get started now. It's free. Do one for every day of the week. It's entirely up to you and entirely free on the iHeart app. Number one for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you good old boys in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful July the 20th, 2021, Ground of Deportes, the Vini Vini Vici. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Oh, Charlton, we're doing wonderful. Another day of rain. I think it was the Phoenix Suns fans flying over on their connection into Milwaukee, with tears falling from the plane, Charlton, making everything wet around here. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. Maybe they can get some eye drops to help them out.
Eye drops can help a lot of people out. It's all fair in love and word. Could have been Smokey Robinson, The Tears of a Clown. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at us to a picture. Man, I love pausing, Big C. I love pausing because they say it's good for the soul, even though I think red wine is a little bit better than pausing, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help, and more people are doing it from sea to shining sea. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as we concentrate tonight on the final game of the NBA Finals, Charlton, we should never stop thinking about the final results of our veterans and when they turn back into society, Charlton, as we try to help them assimilate. Unfortunately, Charlton, over 24 of those veterans a day lose their lives to suicide, as well as many other Americans, Charlton. This is a horrific disease that no one has seemed to be able to put their thumbprint on, Charlton, to find a solution to stop it. We had a rush to stop COVID-19, Charlton, and created a vaccine in a record amount of time. But when we think about how long suicide has gone on in America, Charlton, and how many servicemen and women have lost their lives because of that horrific disease, that this is something that we cannot stand for as a country or even as a world, Charlton. Everyone needs to put forth the effort against this horrific disease because it afflicts so many people, Charlton.
Yeah.
It doesn't care about race, age, or gender. It just afflicts. And as a country and as a world, we need to all pay more attention to mental health.
Yep.
And find out what's troubling these people, Charlton, and find a solution for it.
I love giving out that PSA, Big C. We are doing our part. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, who had a beatdown of the LA Dodgers at Chavez Ravine last night. It's all fair and level war. A home run king, Barry Bonds, and the Say Hey Kid. Very happy about that. Also, our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping to put people back to work just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships are doing it, sports teams are doing it, Nike's doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. When you want to get a loan, don't be sure, be Rocket Sure. It's all fair and level war. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe, just like in Genesis 1:3. God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. Also, this segment is sponsored by Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, but 100% on your game. It goes great with the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. And Big C, last I heard, a buck is an exotic meat. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it's been stomping all over the sun, so evidently the sun is not that hot, and it's been cooled down a bit.
Yeah. What to say, that good old boy Elton John, don't let the sun go down on me. It's all fair in level war. Chris Paul was playing a lot of Elton John today. It's all fair in level war. But I really do appreciate, and I hope that we have a Game 7, because it's just like eating extra venison. You don't want to just have one bite. You can't eat one potato chip. You got to eat the whole bag. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Phoenix has had 5 bites at the apple, and tonight number 6 comes up, and their mouth may be closed once this is over.
Yeah, that's their problem. They were eating the apple. We told them, eat the venison, Big C. They got to be able to know the difference between an apple and venison if they want to see a Game 7. It's all fair and level war. But when you think about it, too, Big C, I also want to say thank you to Jacqueline Westlake at Northern California Volvo. Love driving the cars. Beautiful vehicle. It's all fair and level war. Thank you for following the Big C Sports Show. And Big C, back to the game and back to the sun. Don't let the sun go down on me. The great Elton John. When you think about the Bucks and the Suns, they're going to square off in Game 6. In fact, the game is already underway, but we DVR. We don't try to be like the movie theater guy that's seen the movie 7 times and he's telling people what happened. But tonight, 6 o'clock p.m. West Coast time, 9 East Coast time on ABC Sports. And the Bucks are seeking their first championship in 50 years, Big C, and would be the second team in NBA history to overcome a multiple 2-0 series deficit in a single postseason. The Bucks also came in 2-0 deficit versus your friends that play for the Brooklyn Nets. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, all the naysayers out there talking about the greatest players in the NBA and, you know, who was the stars and who were going to get to a championship. Giannis said, I may not be an American, but I know how to speak a little bit of English, and I'm getting there.
Yeah, he speaks a little bit of English, and he's been hanging around some old wise people because he heard, get off my lawn. It's all fair in level war. Giannis saying, get off my lawn. But I still hope that we see a Game 7. You come this close. The great Eminem said, you only got one shot. They got one shot. Phoenix will not be knocked out tonight. And then if you look at Milwaukee, they have 2 shots to win this whole thing. But I feel there's something about this small town atmosphere. I won't say small town. Milwaukee is a pretty good sized city, but compared to New York and Los Angeles, it's a small city, Big C. But that crowd reminds me of what we saw up in Toronto, Canada, when the Toronto Raptors knocked off the Golden State Warriors. They call it Jurassic Park there. I think they call it Deer Crossing or Deer Park. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's exceeded anything that Toronto had done, you know, as far as fans involvement on the outside of the arena. When you think about the number of people that have attended the games at Pfizer Arena in Milwaukee, Charlton, it's just been enormous. The expectation tonight is that they'll have some 75,000 fans, Charlton, outside of Pfizer Arena viewing the game, cheering on the Milwaukee Bucks. And so I know they'll be able to hear it inside.
Yeah, they'll be able to hear it inside. Big C, 50 years ago, they had a good boy by the name of Lou Alcindor. He was roaming around in Milwaukee. I know they had that championship pedigree, and no one would have thought that it would have taken them 50 years to get back. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, Charlton, because that team was disbanded shortly after losing the championship in '74 to the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers because he no longer wanted to be a part of that Milwaukee environment, Charlton, just because of the racial composite of the city and how, racially divisive it was. So
Yeah.
he was part of a 7-player trade, Charlton. The Milwaukee Bucks got back 6 players in exchange for Kareem going to Los Angeles, which created a new dynasty in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it created a new dynasty in Los Angeles. 17 NBA championships. That's tied with the Boston Celtics. But since the Lakers have won the most recent championship, I say the Lakers are the best franchise in the history of the NBA. And in Boston, a lot of those championships, they were all around Bill Russell when they had 11, been to 11 of those, Big C. So I'd say obviously the Lakers have the longevity of having the best basketball franchise.
But Los Angeles has not won as many as the city of Boston. Los Angeles won a few of those championships when they were in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So if we're counting the city, Charlton, Boston still has that number.
I think they won one in Minnesota, but I could be wrong about that. And then if you also look at, they won in Inglewood, because Inglewood was to claim those championships, not Los Angeles. Now, Dixie, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you look at Los Angeles, or you look at the Basin.
Yeah, you look at the Basin, it's all fair in Leavenworth, Big C. So since the team lost to the Brooklyn Nets by 39 points, and King Giannis Antetokounmpo held to a measly 18 points, Big C, King Giannis has 13 consecutive games where he's shooting at least 50% from the floor during these playoffs. And Big C, that's incredible, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I guess the big foot of Durant allowed him to continue on, Charlton, and dominating the NBA in the playoffs and making it to the finals and one game short of winning a championship. But when you think about the dominance of Giannis and how he has evolved, Charlton, in his non-MVP season, to show that, hey, I'm more than just a trophy, Charlton. I'm actually a great team player. And he has led Milwaukee to the precipice of being a champion once again. Yeah, to the precipice of being a champion once again. And only because Bucks learned how to read. And when they saw those hot flames in Phoenix, Arizona, they refused to get on that grill. It's all fair in Leavenworth. When you think about it, 50% from the floor, that's kind of a clue. He's not shooting 50% from three. Big C, your thoughts? Well, I mean, this is where the maturation process of Giannis has evolved, Charlton. Understanding that, he is the best big man in the NBA. People can talk about Embiid, they can talk about Jokic, but when he's down in the paint, only he and Jokic can play that type of way. Jokic is the MVP because you're looking for players. You're looking for teammates, Charlton. When you think about the assists that he's able to facilitate down in the paint, Charlton, kicking the ball out to critical shots, Charlton, that his teammates have been able to make. He can dominate the board, Charlton, but not only that, he's a rim protector. And we have not seen a center of his athleticism in the NBA since David Robinson of the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah, the great David Robinson, the Admiral David Robinson. I'm glad they did not call the Admiral a freak David Robinson. It's all fair and level. I still heard an ignorant black man that cries a lot about racism address Giannis as the freak in front of all those white people in Milwaukee, calling the black man a freak. Didn't say any freak was on the white man's uniform. No white person was called a freak, but Giannis. And see a black man do it, they think, what in the world's wrong with black Americans? They say Black Lives Matter, and they keep tearing each other down, but some people don't read. It's all fair level war. The Milwaukee Bucks have not lost the game. When you think about this, they're comparing Giannis to Kareem, Lou Alcindor, Big C, not there yet, but Milwaukee Bucks have not lost a game since Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and the Big O, Oscar Robertson, showed up together at Pfizer Forum, and they did not call Kareem and Oscar Robertson freaks. Big C, your thoughts? Charlton, they paid homage to the team that won the championship in 1971 of the Milwaukee Bucks. The whole team was there. John McLaughlin, Bobby Dandridge, and the rest of the crew, Charlton. They came in, and they inspired this young host of Milwaukee Bucks players, Charlton. And they recognized what they were playing in front of, greatness, NBA history, and royalty, Charlton. Giannis took pictures with these two great players at the end of the game, celebrating the victory they had over Phoenix to even up the series that night.
Yeah, I really appreciate it's a brotherhood in sports, Big C. And whether guys are on a high school team or a college team or a little league team or when they make it to the pro leagues, you see a lot of guys that pay homage to the players that came before them. And of course, they can talk about the new players, the nouveau riche players, and how they may be reminded of somebody from back in the day. And it's always great when you see that greatness sit on the sideline. But before people want to crown Giannis, you want to crown him. But before you crown Giannis as Kareem, I remember that summit that happened about 50 years ago. It was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it was Jim Brown, it was Muhammad Ali, and several other athletes that were there trying to make sure that society did not look at black men as freaks. And there's some dumb black guys that don't know that history. And so all that stuff that Kareem went through in the past, never being called a freak by media, and I really appreciate what they did to make it possible for young men today to have multiple $1 million of sponsorship and also worldwide acclaim. But we just got to get rid of a few knuckleheads that don't understand what they fought for. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, ironically, if you were a little older, you would have remembered Kareem having that type of dialogue used against him, Charlton, during his playing days at Powell Memorial and UCLA. And those words are actually laminated throughout the media, Charlton. But, when you think about young athletes today, this is a different era of what athletes go through compared to what the vitriol that athletes had to go through back in Kareem's heyday of college and high school.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war, and not everybody's going to get on the bus. Some people like denigrating themselves. Do you like what you see when you look in the mirror? The great John Wynn has a great movie for anybody who wants to know what you look like in the mirror. You got to look at yourself. You got to examine yourself. Do you like what you see when you look in the mirror? And a lot of young kids, they're looking for older statesmen to pave that way, that yellow brick road. It's all fair and love and war. I got a bone to pick, Big C. It's not necessarily with you. I know you bring a lot of that Southern hostility that you bring sometimes to the show. It's all fair and love and war coming out of the South.
It's called Southern reality, Charlton. Southern reality, not hostility.
Okay,
change the word. It's reality.
It's called hostility, reality. However it is, it's all commingled. It's like a smorgasbord. It's all fair and love and war. But for the people of Phoenix, and because numbers matter and words matter, Big C, Scott Foster, the nemesis of the Phoenix Suns. Some people say, oh, there you go again. But when you think about it, Scott Foster, referee, the nemesis of the Phoenix Suns, Big C, Chris Paul, to referee Game 6 tonight, the NBA Finals is already underway. I don't know if you've ever saw an official when you play and you say, oh my God, not that guy again, because you get called for face mask and whatever they want to call against him. Oftentimes it follows a person. So when you see Scott Foster, Big C, he's officiated 11 straight postseason losses in games where the great Chris Paul has played, and will be the crew chief tonight in the game alongside fellow veterans referee Tony Brothers and Eric Lewis. As a former athlete, I know you were called a lot for face masks, Big C, oftentimes by just one or two officials. Does it bother you that the league knows this? Paul is part of the NBA Players Association, Big C, and they have a guy that's been there with all of his losses, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's easy to try to point a finger at an individual, Charlton, but more plays than not are dictated by the players and what they are by the officials. If Scott Foster's not going to let him flop, he's not going to let him flop, Charlton. But I don't think that Scott Foster has a hand in when you're missing a shot or not getting a rebound or somebody shooting in over you, over the top, Charlton. So, I mean, we all try to find little nitpicks when teams are losing to try to find some little advantage that they can have to give them a crying point.
Right.
But the crying point in professional athletics or any other level of athletics is what you do out on the field or the court as a player.
Yeah.
People talk about that in baseball, about some umpires don't have a generous strike zone for a certain pitcher. Well, generosity is throwing the damn ball down the middle of the plate. That's where the strike zone is. If you get between those two black marks, you're going to get the strike. In basketball, if you shoot the ball through the rim, Scott Foster has nothing to do with that. But when we look at a basketball game on television, you'll see a lot of situations you were crying about in the last game. Saying that you felt that it was a foul on Booker. Scott Foster had nothing to do with that. He wasn't in that game. So, I mean, it comes down to the angles of the officials. I'm tired of seeing so many damn replays when it comes out. Well, let's go look at the replay on this. Call what you see with your eyes and let the game play itself out.
Yeah, but some people don't have 20/20 vision. And for the people in Phoenix that have this superstition that every time You see a certain I see butterflies all over Northern California. Always brings good luck, Big C. But Paul has only 2 wins, and he's 15 losses for the people in Phoenix, Arizona that have this think about it. In playoff games that Foster has refereed, Big C, when you think about it, they have a contentious history. And Chris Paul does flop a lot. He has to knock that garbage off. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You don't want to flop. Kareem never flopped as far as I knew, Big C. He may have tripped over somebody sometime with his size 20 feet, Big C. But flopping should be called, in my opinion, a technical. It should be a technical, and maybe Silver will look at that next year. But that wouldn't concern you at all if the referee that saw you play a football game and you were 2-15 when that referee's in the game and he calls most of the penalties against you, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I look at it, especially when you're in a team game, is that everybody has to play their role in a team game. Everybody has to pick up the slack. If you're sitting there and you're worried about Scott Foster, you've lost the game already.
Yeah.
He's taking you out of your ability to play and concentrate on the game.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that officials are human, just like every player on the court, Charlton.
Yeah.
And everybody is bound to make mistakes, and everybody's bound to get things right.
Yeah.
It's just a matter, if that timing is not what you want that timing to be, then you've gotten yourself off of your game mentally.
Yeah. You know, you got to look for every edge. And Monty Williams, he's not going to blame the officials, but he did bring it up, and that's a clue. It's all fair and level. I want to get Big C's thoughts.
Right now they're looking for an excuse.
Yeah.
You know, if the Phoenix Suns go on and lose this game tonight, is everybody going to be pointing a finger at Scott Foster? What if Scott Foster only calls 5 fouls in the entire game in that 48 minutes?
Yeah.
And all the other officials call more than him. Are people still going to point a finger at Scott Foster saying it's his fault?
Wow, yeah. Actually, yeah. They got to have someone to blame, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I wanna get your opinion. And again, everybody has their own opinion. You have yours, I have mine. A lot of Southern hospitality media, they have their opinion, and a lot of us more fair-minded West Coast media have ours. Give me your thoughts, Big C's thoughts. If Phoenix is not going to do what Elton John said, don't let the sun go down on me. If they don't want the sun to go down on them, what does Phoenix have to do tonight, Big C? Your thoughts?
What does Phoenix have to do, Charlton? You know, they got to shoot the lights out, and they've been shooting the lights out this entire season. You think about Phoenix.
Yeah.
In their last 2 games, they've shot more than 54% from the floor and still lost their last 2 games.
Yeah.
But they've been dominated in the paint by Milwaukee. I don't think that they have the physical wherewithal to play with Milwaukee in the paint. As I said, you know, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis, they stopped by Home Depot and Lowe's and got some paint rollers.
Yeah.
And they've been painting the paint, Charlton.
Yeah.
They've been controlling that. And that's where the Phoenix Suns have not had much success. They have not gotten to the rim. You think about the lack of free throws that they have shot.
Yeah.
Because they want to be comfortable shooting the threes and shooting from outside.
Yeah.
They have to create that penetration and kick out, Charlton, and try to get some fouls.
Yeah, they got to try to do that. And they don't want to bring that flop resume. You don't need to flop tonight. It's either a foul. If it's not a foul, get your butt up and get back and play defense if you don't get the call. Big CB, so if we want Elton John, don't let the sun go down on me. What does Milwaukee do when they see that heat flame? You know, a lot of guys barbecue venison back in Wisconsin. If they see there's a big barbecue grill, and that's what Phoenix should do, they should have a big barbecue grill set up on the sideline by the players so Milwaukee would be afraid to go to the bucket. What does Milwaukee have to do if they want to cut down the nest tonight, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, they can't read that memo that you sent to Phoenix about wine, you know, because they've been whining the whole time, Charles. And they just need to go out and play the basketball that they have. They have to play with that Southern hostility, Charles, and that physicality. And that's what they've been doing. When you think about, you know, every athlete will say, okay, you've been pumped, okay?
Yeah.
That's what the Milwaukee Bucks have been doing to the Phoenix Suns, Charles. In the last 2 games, they have punked them physically. They've gotten all over them. When you see guys crying, throwing their hands up in the air, why did you call a foul for me?
Yeah.
Play the damn game. That's what Milwaukee has done. When you think about the balanced attack that they've had, the enthusiasm, Phoenix is a tired team because Milwaukee has beat them up physically.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have the legs to overcome that.
Yeah, it's all fan love more. Las Vegas with love for the Phoenix Suns to create a Game 7 because of the money is poured all over the Bucks tonight like gasoline on charcoal. I don't know why. Why do you guys put gasoline on charcoal in the Southern hospitality barbecue? Isn't it hot enough, Dixie? You're not.
Well, Charlton, when you want to get the coals going in a hurry, who wants to worry about a little can of lighter fluid when you got a whole tank of gas?
Yeah, put your gas cap on when people in the barbecue. It's down south. They go get that gasoline out of your car. They don't go to Home Depot and Lowe's, proud sponsor of Big C Sports. It's all fair and level war. I really do hope we see a Game 7 because I love watching Venison try to avoid the heat. If that makes sense to you, it's all fair and level war. Big C, the pitch. Hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friend, the great Scarface, Tony Montana. The girls love the long ball and the men love hit the deep. It's all fair and level. Where I want to come up on today's baseball schedule, Major League Baseball style, on a beautiful July the 20th, 2021. The Los Angeles Angels are up here in the Bay Area, taking on the Oakland A's, the Kansas City Royals. Also in Milwaukee, taking on the Milwaukee Brewers, and probably the least interest shown in that game in the history of baseball in Milwaukee. Big tonight, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the basketball game will be up on the big screen over in Miller Park, Charlton, so everybody in Milwaukee will be paying attention to the festivities in town.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war. They played that game early, but it's all fair and level war. The Marlins at the Washington Nationals, the Big C, the Philadelphia Phillies. They are in New York taking on the New York Yankees, and the Yankees, they may have a roster change before the end of this month. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Yankees are a team that's struggling, Charlton. When you think about them being in fourth place in the East, they have not gotten any productivity, and their pitching staff has been failing, and their bats have just not been making contact.
Yeah, Aroldis Chapman has been like those guys that let you get onto the turnpike, letting everybody go by. It's all fair and level war. The Mets are at the Cincinnati Reds, not the big red machine, but close enough if that makes sense to you. Baltimore Orioles down in Tampa at the Tampa Bay Rays, Big C. And the Rangers of Texas up in Detroit taking on the Detroit Tigers, but that game has been delayed to be determined. A game that I really wanted to see outside of watching the NBA Finals tonight, the San Diego Padres, Tatis Jr., down in Atlanta taking on the Braves. And, of course, we don't have Acuna Jr., but the Braves still have a good team. And bringing Tatis to the South, will he experience any of that Southern hospitality? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they've had a couple of rain delays down there, Charlton, in holding up games. Who knows if that game is going to get played? Yeah,
it'd be nice to see that game get played. It's all fair and level war. The Cleveland Indians taking on the Houston Astros. Minnesota Twins at the Chicago White Sox. And the best coach, arguably, that walked around in the city of Chicago lately is the great Tony La Russa. Even though he's been sleepwalking, they're still winning the Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, talent will get you over the top, and the White Sox are loaded with it.
Yeah, the White Sox are good. A lot of people wear black socks with their outfits. It's all fair and level war. The Chicago Cubs, they're over in St. Louis, the city by the arch, the gateway to the west, and they're playing the Cardinals. And one of the greatest rivalries, really, when it comes to baseball, the kind of that red, white, and blue mentality, and it's always a packed house no matter which stadium they're in. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, for the Cubs this year, Charlton, it's been a swinging gate with opposing players running across home plate.
Yeah, who needs to go to Disneyland, go to Chicago and run around the Pacers, even if you're a fan over in Chicago? It's all fair level. Or the Seattle Mariners, they're up in the Colorado Rockies. Rumor has it there's a petition in Colorado to have all their games start at 4:20. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about it, marijuana is legal in both the state of Washington and the state of Colorado.
Yep.
So this is open season for a cheap puff.
It's open season for a cheap puff, all fair level war. The Pittsburgh Pirates, Big C, at the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm tired of all these big snakes in this stadium, but the Diamondbacks trying to do their thing. And what I saw last night was one of the best baseball games I'd seen, at least this year, when the first place San Francisco Giants in the city by the bay, they went down to Los Angeles at Chavez Ravine, and it was a close game right until about the 6th or 7th inning, and then the Dodgers decided they wanted to watch San Francisco bat too. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if it was a blowout and you call that a good game, I mean, we're going to have to get you off that 420 you've been looking at.
I don't do 420 at all, Big C, but I was pulling for Northern California so I can get my media passes for the World Series. It's all fair and level war. We're going to take what's called the Big C Pass, also known as the Big C Timeout. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about some good old milestones happening in the world of baseball in the former governor of California. Arnold Schwarzenegger's famous word. We'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts, You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps that you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can also follow them on Xfinity Comcast TV. They just upgraded our TV show, our app Big C, and it has all the sponsors on the Big C Sports Podcast. It sounds like we're getting ready for Super Bowl 56 Big C. I encourage everybody to take a look at the Big C Sports TV on the iHeartRadio app on Xfinity Comcast TV. It's all fair in Leavenworth. Big C, Major League Baseball, I really appreciate the good old boys in Canada working with the good old boys from the United States. Major League Baseball's longest road trip in Major League Baseball history is about to come to an end, Big C, when you think about it, because of friendly neighbors. For the first time since September 29th, 2019, the Toronto Blue Jays, they're going to play baseball games at their home stadium in Toronto, Big C. I think it's called the Rogers Center. And they announced that last Friday. The return to the Rogers Center is going to begin on July 30th, Big C, against the Kansas City Royals. They have been playing their games in the beautiful city of Buffalo, New York. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, hopefully they have some spare jock straps on that trip because they can get a little stiff.
Yeah, hopefully. You know, times are pretty hard when you got to share jock straps with your teammates. It's all fair in Leavenworth, that Southern hospitality. No wonder there's a lot of Southern hospitality. You guys might be suffering from jock itch. Get your own jock. It's a lot more sanitary that way, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, being on the road, when you think about the numbers that they've had being on the road, yeah, everything that they've done has set baseball history.
Yeah, it really has. I really love the game of baseball and how you can go across the border and find some Southern comfort in the United States and not that Southern hostility that we're all known for in Canada. They say the United States is a very violent country, and I think they know what they're talking about. I just want to take a little moment for a PSA because, you know, we've had school shootings at Columbine. We've had school shootings and I mean, it's been all over the country. Nothing new lately as far as I know. We know we've had church shootings where people actually walk into a church and shoot people as they're praying. And there's a profile behind that. But I want to just make sure that people be on the lookout for deranged people and knuckleheads. If security can't do it on its own, at least trying to watch out so we can try to keep people safe. Major League Baseball gun violence, it finds Major League Baseball, and it shouldn't, but it's part of American society. It shows the best and worst of humanity. Players including the great Fernando Tatis Jr., he just ran into the stands and grabbed family members and brought them to the clubhouse. And it's nothing that a player should have to do. That's something for security. But we live in the most violent country on the planet called the United States of America, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, security in a baseball stadium cannot protect 40,000 fans.
No.
When you have a heinous act occurring outside the facility, Charlton. This is something that has crossed the lines of American, daily life. When we think about the heinous acts of individuals with guns. And in that incident, Charlton, 4 people were shot outside the stadium. But even more unfortunate, Charlton, 4 blocks away from the stadium, there was a 7-year-old little girl riding her scooter.
Wow.
That was killed, unfortunately, after that incident.
Yeah, I that's why where there's and the Columbine, when that happened, it was just something that was chilling because you don't expect that. You expect sometimes knuckleheads do certain things, but we have the NRA, they fight for gun laws and people can have a gun. I don't know. It's up to security and up to the United States government to figure out how to solve that problem.
Well, Charlton, if you think about that, Charlton, the state of Tennessee just last week passed an open carry law that you don't even have to be licensed to carry a firearm openly in public, and that's the 3rd state in America that has passed that. Texas has passed that. I believe Georgia has passed that you can walk down the street with a firearm and don't have to be licensed for it. Also Minnesota has that.
Minnesota too. I was in a bank today, and I'm not going to say the name of the bank, but a lot of people, when you sing the Pledge of Allegiance, you can understand the name of that bank. Every one of their tellers was behind some bulletproof glass. Every single one of them. And there's a good boy that came in there looking like he was out of his element, and he was cussing because he had to wait in line with COVID 6 feet apart. He was cussing, using profanity in a bank. They had a security guard there. He just looked at him. But he went on a cussing tirade. You blankety-blank people are blanking up my blankety-blank money, because he had to wait in line longer than he was supposed to. And then he goes outside. No one said anything to him. Not even, sir, could you keep it quiet? But, we still deal with that in society. But be that as it may.
Why would you inject with an individual that you know is being listed and you don't know what his intentions are? You walk up on this individual and all of a sudden you can get shot, Charlton. This stuff happens. We had a person in a mall in our area last night, a security guard.
Yeah.
Hastening somebody out of a mall. They turned around and shot at the security guard, Charlton.
Yeah.
But this is the actions when you address somebody, you don't know what their actions are going to be.
Yeah, that's true, but we do have law enforcement for a reason. They should all retire if they're afraid to do what they're sworn to do, but that's just an opinion. But Major League Baseball, when you think about Vladdy makes history with a home run, the All-Star slugger becomes the fastest Blue Jays hitter, and he's doing it out of his own home. They say Jesus went about the village teaching, not preaching, and he had to do it away from his home because people didn't believe that he could do mighty works. And the great Vladimir Guerrero's been doing mighty works away from his home in Canada. The All-Star slugger becomes the fastest Blue Jays hitter to reach 31 home runs in a season in 90 games, Big C, 2021, the great Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Also the All-Star MVP, All-Star Game MVP. 31 home runs are tied for second most by a player. 22 years or younger. Bellinger did it also. The only other player that did more, 1937, the great Joe DiMaggio. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, what's special about Vlad Guerrero Jr., Charlton, hitting those 31 home runs in 90 games is that he did them all on the road. Not one of those home runs were hit in his home stadium in Toronto, Charlton.
Yeah.
They've all been hit on the road, so there will be an asterisk next to his record that none of those were done in his home ballpark.
Yeah, the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friend, the great Tony Montana. And now Guerrero Jr. is doing the same thing. It's all fair in Leavenworth. I love the game of baseball. When you think about baseball, Big C, the Mets 7, the Red Sox 6, and the Nationals 6, all 6+ home runs that happened on Monday. They say the ball's not juiced, but maybe the bat is, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think about those players hitting those home runs, Charlton, they didn't participate in that home run derby where players come out of that normally a little fatigued. And, this is what people go to baseball games for, Charlton, to watch the ball being launched out of the ballpark.
Yep.
And those games, Charlton, delivered great action for the fans.
Yep, the pitch hit deep. They love hitting it deep. It was the second day in Major League Baseball history in which 3 teams hit 6 or more homers. They went all out of the park, Big C. It also happened July 2nd in 2002 when the Giants hit 7 and the White Sox hit 6, as well as the Tigers did 6. But that was back in 2002 when supposedly they were drinking extra something that made their muscles bigger and stronger and faster. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it reminds you of the 1971 All-Star game at Detroit Tiger Stadium when all the runs that scored, all 6 of them were home runs by the American League in that victory in that game.
Yeah, it's all fair level. Hit deep. Everyone loves hitting it deep. Big C, Major League Baseball, the Nationals led the Marlins. I thought it was a football game. I thought I saw Putty Cat. If you ever watched the TV cartoon, Putty Cat, I think it's Bugs Bunny. I thought I saw Putty Cat. It's all fair level war. But the Nationals, it wasn't a Putty Cat. It was a Marlin, Big C. They led the Marlins 18-0. And the Tigers led the Rangers 14-0. And them good old boys from Beantown, the Red Sox, they led 12-0 against the Blue Jays. I guess the ball is not juiced, but maybe the bat is. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, ever since they've been checking the pitchers about having some illegal substance in somewhere within their uniform, you can see the run production in Major League Baseball has gone up expeditiously since then, Charlton.
Yep.
But that's great for the fans to see some runs being scored in the ballpark. That creates a lot more excitement about being there and sitting in that hot sun.
Yeah, about being in that hot sun is all fair in Levy War. But I'm telling you, it's the 4th time Major League Baseball history that three teams took 12-0 leads. On the same day, it happened twice in 1890 and not again until July 7th of 2004. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's become recent history. You think about what happened in 2004, Charlton, when everybody was hitting the ball out of the ballpark and teams scoring a lot of runs. And now we're getting it again, Charlton, after they stopped players from doctoring up the baseball.
Yeah, Big C, we talked about NBA Scott Foster, and again, I don't think he should be a part of officiating tonight's game. Just my opinion, because you want to take away the shenanigans, Big C. Just like anybody else, if a certain person, not to go back to the OJ trial, but Mark Furman should have never been part of that investigation. That's just my opinion, be that as it may. If something smells like a duck, and it looks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, and it talks like a duck, I've never seen a duck talk, but it's probably going to end up on a Southern barbecue grill with that Southern hospitality. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, why does Chris Paul go around flopping and jumping up and saying, why can't I get that call? knowing that no one pushed him down, Charlton. When we think about some of the antics of the players, and when you have officials calling the game properly and they overlook some of those antics, Charlton, these players are going to be upset. They're going to cry, say, well, the other guys give me that call. Why can't you give me that call? Play the damn game the way the game is supposed to be played. Stay on your feet. Defend the player, Charlton. Don't run in front of an opposing defender when he's coming down court and stop it in front of him and expect him to get knocked over. Because that actually should be an offensive foul when players do that. And when the Phoenix Suns haven't gotten those calls, they're going to cry. And, I mean, if you're sitting there concentrating on Scott Foster, you've already lost the game. Because Scott Foster is not going to have that big of an impact on the game tonight. Believe me that the announcers will talk about Scott Foster every time he gets involved in a call, Charlton. And he's not going to have the impact that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to have on the game tonight.
Does Adam Silver address that when someone thinks there's shenanigans in this league? And we know nobody cheats in sports. Everything is fair, except for Texas. But everything's fair in sports, supposedly. Does the commissioner come out and defend this guy that's been approved and okay to play in NBA basketball games? Basically, your thoughts?
Charlton, all the officials that have refereed in the finals have been elected there by the players and the rest of their, compadres in the official ranks, Charlton. They have earned the right. They have graded the highest amongst all the officials in the NBA. There's a rotation of officials that officiate in the finals. But all of these guys have the highest grade from out the regular season, and that's what allows them to officiate in the finals.
Well, it's known that Chris Paul's been known to play James Brown. I feel good. He feels good, so he's dancing.
So, I mean, but think about this. Do you blame Scott Foster every time that Chris Paul gets hurt? Is he the reason why he went down in that game one against the Lakers? Because Scott Foster was officiating that game when he went down. So, I mean, every time that something has happened to Chris Paul with an injury, a pulled hamstring or whatever, is that Scott Foster or is that Chris Paul?
Probably Chris Paul, but you got to blame somebody. It's all fair and level war. But I just wish for a great game, and I wish they would have taken him off the call tonight just to get rid of all the talk about shenanigans and people thinking that sports are rigged. What a figure. Sports rigged. Big C, Major League Baseball, the great Shohei Ohtani threw 6 scoreless innings last night and then moved to right field. I mean, Mickey Mouse is no longer in Disneyland, the most popular figure down in Southern California, Anaheim. The great Shohei Ohtani, he's the 4th player since 1900 to throw a scoreless start and then play another position in the same game on the same day in the same jockstrap. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Shohei Ohtani has become an anomaly in professional baseball, something that's surely needed. But it still hasn't driven up the numbers in baseball to make it the much-watched game on television, Charlton. I know he's must-see TV, but we don't have that much excitement around in all of baseball to gravitate everybody to the stadiums or even to the television screen. But Shohei Ohtani is as good as advertised. Every time he's on, you know that something spectacular is about to occur. Whether he's at bat or on the mound, Charlton, he has been great personally for baseball.
He has been great personally for baseball. The last one was Cesar Tovar threw a scoreless inning and then played every other position. That was back in 1968. The great Shohei Ohtani on Sunday was 2 for 3 with a home run. Hit deep, it's all fair and level war. 2 base on balls. And then LA lost. It was 7-4. I think he will look much better, and you may probably finally agree with something that I say. I think the great Shohei Ohtani will look much better in Dodger blue, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, he's going to look great wherever he's playing. I think he's in the right place when you look at the Asian infusion there in Southern California. You think about Orange County, Charlton, which was what the Asians owned prior to World War II until the government took it away from them and put them all in internment camps. I think he's in the right place for history and baseball history.
I can't believe the United States would actually take land from people. That's called theft. But, it's all fair and level war. And you think about it's kind of unreal. They're 8-6 when he's in a certain position because he's starting pitcher. He has a 3.21 ERA, which is not that great, especially when you look at Jacob deGrom and then Gibson back in the day. They are 15-16 when he hits a home run, hit deep, Big C, and he now leads Major League Baseball in homers. It's amazing that one player is carrying this same franchise, but again, they don't sell out down in Anaheim. But that's why I say he would really be better in Dodger blue, just my opinion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, players have to play where they are, Charlton. When you think about all the great players around Major League Baseball, everybody can't wear Dodger blue. They don't have enough roster spots, Charlton.
Yeah.
But baseball is about parity, and that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. I wish them nothing but the best in the world of hit deep Major League Baseball. Big C, I want to take you to a world of college football. In a brave new world, name, image, and likeness sponsorships, Texas A&M, the Aggies down in College Station, and a fan site has struck a deal to pay 2 Texas A&M Aggie football players $10,000 each for exclusive feature interviews ahead of SEC Media Days. Hey, we're living in a capitalistic society. Good for them, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's great that some of these athletes are going to be able to go out and profit from that name, image, and likeness. The only thing that, when you look at it, it's not universal for all players, Charlton, to be able to get a part of the dollar. Some players are going to stand out and receive the lion's share of the revenue. My biggest concern about that is what type of relationship is that going to create between teammates, Charlton, when you look at players and they're receiving all this excess revenue on the side, and where the guys that are playing next to them may not be receiving any dollars. Is that going to create animosity? Is that going to create a lack of performance on the field, saying, well, he's making all of this dollars, let him do a little bit more than what I should have to do, Charlton? Because it's not going to be all about winning championships any longer when you look at college athletics. It's out there about how much can I make, because as we all know, with 351 teams competing in the NCAA, Charlton, in Division I, only one is going to win a championship. So how is that going to affect the play on the field of moving forward from this point? We know that gambling has been, approved by the Supreme Court all across this country. If you're not getting the sponsorship, where else are you going to be able to get your money? This is going to lead to a lot of gambling, Charlton, from players that are not getting sponsorship. And, watch the line on games and see how they become affected as the season go on.
Yeah, the great Morris Day. Gigolos get lonely, too, when you want to know how some guys go out and make their money, Big C. You do what you got to do. And as far as gambling on sports, which I don't think anyone has ever done in the history of this country, no one's ever gambled on sports. Big C is going to be new because of this name, image, and likeness. No one's ever had improprieties in sports. But think about this. There are some guys on college campuses that drive brand new cars that cost 6 figures. And they have teammates that don't, and they still manage to win games. People know what that means down in the SEC. You think about running back Isaiah Spiller and safety Damani Richardson, Big C, each will be featured on TexasA&M.com as part of a deal with a local company called Greenprint. It's a real estate group, and everybody in real estate is making money hand over fist, but some people live in $1 million house, other people just trying to get by. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, and that's what it's going to be. But you got to understand, you're dealing with young people in these situations. And people now in society, because you have so much social access to everything, you're going to have players that are going to feel that they've been jilted. And trust me, it's going to come across. Because players have ego when they arrive. And they're going to say, well, why is this guy getting more than me? We've seen the transfer rule come into play really heavy in college sports over the last 2 seasons, where players started entering the transfer porthole in record numbers. You're going to see that even more, Charlton, when players are not receiving any revenue, but yet you have to go out there and you're critical to a team's victory. And you got guys, they're going to say, hey, he's getting all the money, let him make the play.
Yeah, but then they'll sit their butt on the bench, Big C. I think people are going to play hard because they have this illusion that they're going to get drafted, not that their teammates playing harder or less hard. But it's all fair in love and war. I think
but there's so many players, Charlton, have the realization that they know that they're not going to get drafted. We know every year that there's only going to be 256 players drafted. There's 351 NCAA Division I schools. But only 256 players are going to get drafted. Players on a team, even back when I played in college, until today, can look at teammates that know who's going to get drafted. They don't have a disillusion saying that I'm going to be playing at the next level. And there's research in the NCAA on that, whether it's in basketball, baseball, or football. There's reality amongst those players. The USC even had a quarterback that led them to their first national championship back in 1967 and 68 when they were runner-up, Charlton. And O.J. Simpson was there winning the Heisman Trophy. But he chose not to go and play professional football.
Yeah.
He chose to go the route of baseball because he knew as an NFL quarterback that he didn't have the wherewithal to succeed.
Yeah, John Wayne also played at USC. A lot of good old boys played at USC back in the day. But I always believe that athletes, if they want to start, they're going to play hard. If not, they're going to sit on the bench. But everybody has their own opinion. I think the deal is one of the first that announced that it will pay players for immediate access, which is allowed since the new NIL rules were instituted July 1st. I was talking with Jacqueline Westlake, Big C, a salesperson with Volvo of Northern California. And as I walked in there, she approached me and asked me, how you doing? Is there anything I can have you drive today? A lot of good of us were sitting back with their feet up on the desk, and they complained that she's the top salesperson. Everybody's motivated by whatever motivates them. It's all fair in love and war. Texas A&M is an independent company that is not affiliated with Texas A&M, that real estate company. And with Texas A&M, according to its media kit, it draws about 400,000 unique visitors and over 32 million page viewers each month. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's accessibility, Charlton, and most of those people down in Texas enjoy football. And when you have that many people drawn to your webpage, Charlton, every day, every month, and you're going to have athletes on there speaking, this is why it's so important for athletes to be able to articulate now, Charlton, with his name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
We've seen so many interviews where athletes cannot speak in sentences, which has been embarrassing to me for decades, Charlton, when I sit up and listen to it. Even when I was a player and I had teammates that a lot of media members would gravitate to because they knew they could make a mockery of the interview with the player. They could always seem brighter than the player that they were interviewed. And a lot of media people really love that situation to be into.
Yeah.
And so I hopefully now that a lot of athletes will take a speech communications class, Charlton, to learn how to enunciate their words and be more clairvoyant on air.
Yeah, sometimes we don't all understand what each other's saying. Sometimes I don't understand you. Sometimes you don't understand me. But I kind of feel for the players that are exploited. The thing that I perturbed about, if I could use a word, Big C, perturbed or upset about, it bothers me to the core, is when our own brethren, because I'm African-American, I always thought for African-Americans, all life began on the African continent according to science. I know some people don't believe in science, but to call people who look like the original people of the planet freaks, like Frankenstein, and I see some well-paid analysts that are paid by white Americans to call black men freaks, it's like the Willie Lynch letter is true in 2021, but some people don't even know what that is. It's all fair in love and war. For guys that can't read, just get a tutoring and do the best you can no matter what. I want to think about some college football also. And I know we talk about Southern hospitality and hospitality, however you say it, Big C. College football, Alabama football coach, the great Nick Saban, Paperback Nick as we call him on the West Coast, he hasn't officially named Bryce Young the Crimson Tide starting quarterback yet. And Saban says that Young is already approaching $1 million in endorsement, Big C. And he's made a $1 million that he hasn't started the whole game yet. And when you think about it, will California any longer be able to keep any of its top players in the state? People that know it, we just got one of the biggest gambling guys in the business to be the commissioner of the Pac-12, so probably yes. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you can have that commissioner out there, but you don't have any television exposure, and that's what players are looking for. When you look at Alabama, they're always drawing huge ratings, and they always got 100,000 people in their stadium watching games down in the SEC. But when you look at Bryce Young's situation down there at Alabama, Charlton, this is one of the major attractions that are going to drive the kids out of California. When you look at the top quarterbacks out of California really in the past decade, how many of them have stayed there? Not many, Charlton. They chose to take their exploits elsewhere because they want that television exposure. That television exposure is what's going to lead to that NIL money, Charlton. And people are not staying up to 10:30 to 12 o'clock on the East Coast to watch a game when they can watch it in prime time, being back in the middle of the country and on the East Coast.
Yeah, I disagree with you. Silicon Valley's in California, Northern California. And the county that it represents is the wealthiest county in the United States. And a lot of smart guys that know they may not play pro football, they're focused on technology, not getting CTE going down south where they're going to be exploited. And a lot of those guys don't even get a degree. But there are a lot of guys that are focused on technology.
1 minute ago you said that everybody was trying to play pro football. Now you're saying they just want to get a degree.
No, I don't think you listen. I said when you're playing football, the dream that a lot of guys have is to play pro. And so when you said that some guys aren't going to try hard because their teammates making more money, it's always been that way. So I disagree with that. But most guys, they want to play pro. If they don't play hard, they'll be sitting on the bench, and they definitely want to play pro. But I want to touch on something with the young player, Bryce Young. There's a lot of players that Pete Carroll was able to recruit. He had the top player from Florida. He was a receiver that came out. He played out down in Tampa. I think his name was Mike Williams. He also had one of the top linebackers that came out of New Jersey that ended up playing for the USC Trojans. And also, there's a lot of players that he recruited from all over the country because they had whatever they had that made them want to come and play for the Trojans, Big C. But Bryce Young, when you think about it, he led California Santa Ana Mater Dei to 2 football national championships in high school. And the only game that he ever lost was to DJ Ugalele with St. John Bosco, who's now the quarterback at Clemson. They both left the Golden State to go down south and play for whatever paper bags they were able to get from those schools, Big C. But there's also a lot of players, too, that stay in the West Coast because they realize there's a lot of good football opportunities here, too, Big C. Your thoughts?
But they knew that the road was greener on the southern side, Charlton, and the exposure was greater being down in the south. As you look at those 2 players, Charlton, both of their teams were in the college football playoffs during their freshman year.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why they attended college, to get that national exposure, Charlton, and have a better opportunity to get to the next level, and that was provided for them down in the south. If they'd have stayed on the West Coast in one of those teams, Charlton, nobody on the West Coast got a nod in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, that's because of collusion. And last I heard, Bruce Rollinson, who's been at Mater Dei for over 30 years, and then John Beam, who's been at St. John Bosco, both have won national championships. They said there's a lot of paperbacks floating around those campuses.
But the high school national championship is one thing.
Yeah.
But that college national championship is what will get you to the next level.
Yeah.
If you think about the 2 greatest quarterbacks in California history, you look at Jimmy Clausen, who has the winningest record of any high school quarterback there in California. You look at Jake Browning, who has the second most, Charlton. Neither one of those guys played in the NFL for any length of time. They played there, but they never made a name for themselves.
Yeah, Jake Browning played at Folsom High School in Northern California, went to the University of Washington. But it's all fair in love and war. But when it talks about money and technology, what I really encourage for young kids, especially black kids, to get into space technology and don't be the next exploited kid that can't read because these good old guys take you down south and they lie to you. And they use you up like a prostitute, and then they get up the next one to come out there and play for them. And they don't even have a degree. The Pac-12, it graduates most of its student athletes, and as a conference, they have the #1 conference in the history of the United States in the Power 5 for championships overall, because it's more overall important. But I want to think about something here that I want a young kids to think about. Jeff Bezos, Big C, he's not a football player. He doesn't have to risk CTE. He doesn't have to run the 40 and 4.5 or bench press 400 pounds. He uses brain. Jeff Bezos' net worth is over $205 billion. And so he was not recruited by anyone to play football. He uses brain for technology. Creator of Amazon. I'm just grateful for $6 billion, Big C, me and my partner. But when you think about it, he went into space, and rumor has it he went to get the Big C burger. He knows it's a tasty burger. He knows it comes with exotic meats. But at the same time, how many people have their own money, sports aside, to go into space where no one can hear you scream and then come back safely, Big C? Your thoughts?
Yeah, but see, Jeff Bezos started out as a bookworm, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's how he was able to get to the level that he was. You talk about a bench press and running 40. No, he was sitting at a bench reading.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He spent his life learning about what books meant and how it could expand your mind.
Yeah.
And from that, Charlton, he opened up a book sale business out of the garage of his house. He didn't have a warehouse. He didn't have a mortar store. He had a garage. And he opened up an interline book sale out of his garage at his own house, having ingenuity through education, not worrying about athletics. I think too often we push young black kids saying the only way you're going to make it is being an athlete. You're going to get there in the NFL. You're going to get there in the NBA. We see that so often with all of these leagues. We got all these AAU teams, Jonathan, all these prep teams traveling around the country, taking these kids, as you say, showing them off like a horse at a horse field. Hey, here, look at this kid, look at this kid. Nobody's talking about academics, Charlton. We just had the first African-American girl in history win the National Spelling Bee, a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
This is what we need to be marketing more with young African-Americans. Yes, I mean, there's great athletes out there, but look how many great minds there are. And that's what got Jeff Bezos to the point to where he is. utilizing his mind. No one talks to black kids more about utilizing their minds. It's like, you're a great athlete. You look good. Where are you going to go to school at? What do you want to be? No one talks to them about the education level.
Yeah. Well, I disagree. My daughter played in the basketball and soccer circuit, and she's an honor roll student, graduated a major university with 2 degrees in 3.5 years. She plays sports in part of the circuit that I'm a part of. My son is an honor roll student, gets straight A's, and he's in college and plays AAU. A lot of it's based on where you come from, and my kids are very well learned, and I don't call them freaks, so they don't have that self-deprecating behavior that a lot of our young black brethren in TV have bought into. I call them kings and queens. It's all fair, love, and war. But I want to touch on one more thing before we close out today's show, because I really appreciate it, and I'm telling you right now, you're going to see it. You're going to see white people and black people referring to white women as freaks when they broadcast NBA. Oh, wait a minute. That's not going to happen. They're going to call them by their names. So let me retract that. There was a woman by the name of Erin Andrews who was seen naked supposedly in a hotel room, and the jury rewarded her $55 million. $55 million. Because she was seen naked. And she got $55 million. Giannis Antetokounmpo, they never called her a freak. They called her a reporter. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a goddess of a person. A lot of kids look up to him. Never been in trouble. Very well spoken. Great mannerisms. He's a perfect embodiment of what NBA basketball is. But how we get away from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being at the summit back about 50 years ago with Jim Brown, and there was Muhammad Ali, and some very learned black men that tried to correct a lot of wrongs. And something's happened to our society today. I was talking to some elders from the Council of Elders. We have people from all over the country. They're black men and women that are part of NASA's space program, that are part of law enforcement and the clergy as well as business. And not one of us call each other freak. Not one. We call each other Mr. And we were saying how Giannis is being held up as a freak, and that's one of the same things that people were called before they were being lynched with impunity. And I'm ashamed that Adam Silver, as a Jewish man, if they call Jewish people freaks, they would say it's anti-Semitic. And he said nothing when a black man is being chastised, even by some ignorant black reporters. And I hate that. I know I might be the only one that hates that, Big C, but the Council of Elders and I were talking about that this last couple of weeks when we've seen basketball. Not one white player has been denigrated in this whole race called freaks. But be that as it may, I hope that maybe Adam Silver will have a come to Jesus moment, if that makes sense to you, and tell the media that that's no longer allowable. And Andrews gets $50 million for being seen naked, and they call a black man a freak, Big C, and they clap for it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I wasn't privy to that meeting that you were in part of, Charlton, today. But if that meeting had have gone structurally like it should and recognized what the plight is of black people in America, then that would have been the foremost part of that meeting. Understanding the breakdown of the family structure in America and how it has affected black society in America, Charlton, when we don't push for that as a culture, to have strong black families and have these athletes run around, and you got everybody with 3 or 4 baby mamas, Charlton, and doing that and not having the father in the house. And I'm a black man, so, you know, my kids, I know where they are when they would wake up in the morning, when they would go to sleep at night. So, you know, that is the biggest part of where we are. We have to correct ourselves as a culture first. We can always point a finger at other people, but then you turn around, you got 3 fingers pointing at yourself. We have to correct what we are not doing right as a culture, just like I was talking about the shooting last night at the stadium outside in Washington, D.C. And then there's 4 blocks away from the stadium, a little black 7-year-old girl gets gunned down and killed, Charlton, riding her scooter down the sidewalk. She didn't ask for that, Charlton. As a culture, we got to do better than that. And so when we start thinking about how we do better as a culture, when we think about over 8,400 black people have been killed by black people, Charlton, since the Derek Chauvin murder of George Floyd a year ago in America, we have to do better than that as a culture. That's just people who have been killed, Charlton, not the total number that have been shot by gun violence from black people. So when we start caring more about our culture and correcting what we do as a culture, then we can start looking at the ills of other people. But we have gotten so far off track as a people that we just don't have what we have. You talk about the summit 50 years ago. in Cleveland. Actually, it was in 1967 when it occurred, that summit, Charlton. You think about the men that were there and where those men are today in society, as society leaders, Charlton, as social activists. This is what we don't have enough of. We have everybody now, just like with this name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
I'm going to get mine. I'm not concerned about yours.
Yeah.
I'm getting mine. We become a self-centered society is what that has become. And it's going to create that with a lot of athletes. It's going to be about me, me, me. I grew up in an era when it was about team, and we never had an I in T.
Yeah.
But there is an E in me. So that's what you're going to get now, Charlton. And in black society, I would like to see it turn around from what it has been. It has gotten so bad. Even where I live, Charlton, it's fearful to go out at night, even in the daytime. But we need to correct ourselves, and then we can look at everybody else and see what they're doing wrong.
I want to make this one statement before we close and get your thoughts on the game tonight. I want anyone in the world to listen as you call Giannis a freak. Mainstream media, white-owned, and they say nothing about it. But I want you to think, the American Civil War in the late 19th century, following the emancipation of slaves, declined in the 1920s. Nearly 3,500 African Americans and 1,300 whites were lynched in the United States between 1882 and 1968. Most lynchings were done to African American men in the southern states, but women were also lynched. Black women were lynched. They were not lynched by black people. More than 73% of the lynchings in the post-Civil War occurred in the southern states. White lynchings of black people also occurred in the Midwestern United States and the border states, especially during the 20th century, during the Great Migration of black people out of the southern United States. The purpose was to enforce white supremacy and intimidate black people through racial terrorism. It's not uncommon to have people do to others what has been done unto them, and that's been by design. But you got to be well read to even have that conversation, and that's why the Council of Elders, we talk about that stuff all the time. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, I want to close
I want to inject this one part on that, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you're inflicting fear on others, the 8,400 black people that have been shot by black people in the past year in America, that exceeds the number of lynchings. And I'm not saying that either one of those are good,
oh, good grief.
and they should not have to parallel each
wow.
other. But what do we get from that as a society?
Well, again, according to Ida B. Wells from the Tuskegee University, most lynchings were...
I'm talking about in the last year.
Well,
I'm not talking about lynching. I'm talking about blacks that's been killed by gunfire in the last year since the George Floyd murder by other black people. What does that bring to society, and what does black culture get out of that in society? What's trying to be proved?
You got to understand. That's what I said. I don't want to have a conversation to embarrass you or anybody that doesn't know this stuff, but it's called intergenerational trauma. And if you have two kids, you beat the hell out of one of them for all of his life, and some parents even get arrested for beating their kids. And then the other kid, you don't beat him, you love him. You give him money, food, shelter, clothing, love them. Do you think one of them's going to have a problem when they grow up? Of course they were. That's why I don't want to have this conversation. It makes me infuriated to think that has to be justified to talk about what slavery's done to people. And then you point out a small segment of society that's still dealing with the vestiges of that. That's why I said you got to read before you have these conversations. But I want to just close on NBA basketball. I want to get your thoughts in the last minute. What does Phoenix have to do if they're going to have Game 7? And then what does Milwaukee have to do if they're going to have Game 7, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, what does Phoenix have to do? They have to hope that Milwaukee has a bad night in shooting from the floor and not being able to clean the board and rebounds, Charlton, because that's where Milwaukee has dominated Phoenix. Phoenix has gotten tired because Milwaukee has beat them with physicality.
Yeah.
That has been the note of this whole series, Charlton, for the NBA Finals. It's been about the physicality of the Milwaukee Bucks and the lack of physicality of the Phoenix Suns. We can shoot the ball from the outside all night long.
Yeah.
Both teams have the ability to do that.
Yep.
But Phoenix only has one big man, and that's DeAndre Ayton. He's going to get 15 to 20 points in the game.
Yeah.
But that's where you limit his effectiveness, Charlton. And if you press him in the paint, Charlton, he's not going to be able to play defense against all those big bodies of Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. I hope that we have a great game. I hope it's not about what the officials did do or didn't do or what call was made or what call was not made. It's all fair and love and war. I hope that everybody just rise and shine. And thank you for Jacqueline Westlake at Volvo of Northern California. Really appreciate you. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young man, rumble, with all you've got to use. How can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, with 75,000 people outside the Pfizer Center in Milwaukee tonight, I look for a raucous crowd outside the NBA championship game, Charlton. But this is a game about will, and we will see at the end of the night whose will was greater than the other. I'm looking forward to an outstanding final Game 6 in the NBA. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. Hopefully anybody doesn't get out of line out there in the crowd and they don't have to work tonight.
That's all fair and love and war. That's all fair and love and war. You can work tonight every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As my mama always said, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.